You know what most men get wrong about compliments? They think it's about the words themselves, like if they say the right thing, she'll instantly feel attracted. But the truth is, what really makes a compliment unforgettable isn't what you say, it's how it makes her feel. The kind of compliment that keeps her awake at night, smiling into her pillow, isn't about her looks. It's about the emotion it awakens inside her. And that's where most men completely miss the point. Imagine this. She's had a long day. Maybe she's feeling unnoticed. Maybe she's questioning her worth a little, as most women secretly do from time to time. Then you say something that hits her heart in a way she didn't expect. Not a shallow, "you look hot," but something that makes her feel seen. Something that reminds her she's more than her makeup, more than her outfit, more than what the world sees. At that moment, your words become an emotional echo in her mind. And trust me, that echo doesn't fade when the night falls. See, women don't crave constant flattery. They crave emotional recognition. When you say something that validates not just her beauty, but her essence, you trigger something far deeper than attraction. You create emotional gravity. And that's the kind of connection she remembers. She might even replay that moment again and again, wondering why your words hit differently. Wondering why you... Let me give you an example. Let's say you're talking to her, and she's telling a story about how she helped a friend through a tough time. Most guys would just nod or say, "That's nice." But if you pause, look her in the eyes and say, "You know, I love how gentle your energy is when you talk about people. It's rare. You're not complimenting her looks. You're acknowledging her character, her emotional depth." In that moment, you've separated yourself from every other man she's ever met. Because you didn't just see her. You understood her. That's what makes her think about you later. It's not the compliment itself, it's the emotional experience tied to it. Women remember how they feel around a man, not what he said, and when your words stir something real inside her, she'll start associating that warmth, that feeling, with you. Psychologically, this works because of something called emotional anchoring. It's when a specific person or action becomes linked to a particular feeling. So if your compliments consistently make her feel feminine, appreciated, and emotionally seen, her brain starts connecting those feelings with you. That's why, even when she's alone at night, you'll drift into her thoughts. Not because you said anything rehearsed or clever, but because your presence, through your words, left a trace in her emotional memory. And here's what's fascinating. When a woman starts thinking about you before she falls asleep, it's not always about desire in the physical sense. It's emotional curiosity. She starts wondering, why did that moment with him feel so different? Why do I want to experience it again? And that, right there, is how attraction begins to grow beneath the surface, quietly, naturally, and powerfully. You don't need to shower her with compliments all day. You just need to master the art of saying the right ones, the ones that speak to her soul, not just her surface. Because once you do that, you stop being just another guy, and you become the one she can't stop thinking about. Here's something most men never realize. When you compliment a woman, she's not only listening to your words, she's feeling the energy behind them. She's sensing whether it's coming from genuine admiration or from a place of trying too hard to impress her. Women are emotional detectors. They can feel authenticity almost instantly. And the more grounded, calm, and sincere you are when you say something, the deeper it lands in her heart. Think about this. When you tell a woman, "You're beautiful," it's sweet, but it's also something she's probably heard hundreds of times. But if you look at her after she says something funny and say, "You know, the way you laugh, it's kind of contagious," she'll pause for a second. Because you're not reciting a line. You notice something small, something real. That's where your power lies. In the details only you catch. Women fall for how a man makes them feel seen. So when you give her a compliment, don't focus on what everyone else notices. Focus on what only you could have noticed. For example, Say she's telling you about how nervous she was before an interview, but she still went and did it. You could say, "You know what I find really attractive? How you do things even when you're scared." That kind of courage is rare. That one line can linger in her head all night, not because it's romantic, but because it validates her strength and vulnerability in the same breath. This works because of something psychologists call selective attention. When someone feels uniquely understood by another person, their brain starts to pay extra attention to that person's presence. You become emotionally highlighted in her mind. That's why a single authentic compliment can sometimes create more chemistry than 100 generic ones. But here's where many men mess it up. They give compliments that sound performative, too polished, too focused on getting a reaction. Women can sense that instantly. She might smile politely, but in her mind, she's already labeling you as someone who's trying too hard. The secret is to let your compliments come from genuine curiosity, not strategy. Don't plan what to say, feel it. Compliments should flow naturally, like something you just couldn't hold back. Let's say you're having coffee with her. She's telling you about how she's been feeling lost lately, unsure of what she wants. Most men would rush to comfort her, maybe say, "You'll figure it out." But a man who truly sees her might say, "It's actually kind of beautiful how honest you are about not having it all together." Most people pretend they do. Now that's powerful. You just turned her uncertainty, something she probably hides from others, into something admirable. You made her feel safe in her own imperfections. That's emotional intimacy right there. And when you do this consistently, when your compliments make her feel not just desired but understood, she starts associating you with emotional peace. Every time she replays your words in her head, it's not just about what you said, it's about how calm, grounded, and certain you made her feel. That's when she starts to crave your presence, not because you're chasing her, but because being around you feels like coming home. You see, attraction isn't about intensity, it's about emotional connection. And the man who knows how to speak to a woman's emotions through the right compliments doesn't just get her attention, he gets her thoughts. And once you're in her thoughts, that's where the real desire begins to bloom. Now, let's go even deeper, because this is where most men start to separate themselves from the rest. You see, a compliment becomes powerful when it creates a moment. Not just a line thrown into a conversation, but something that lingers, that carries emotional weight. Women remember moments, especially the ones that touch their emotions in ways they didn't expect. Picture this. You're out with her, maybe sitting in a quiet place. She's talking, and you can tell she's opening up about something that matters to her. Maybe she's sharing how she's always been the one who takes care of everyone, but sometimes she feels like no one notices what she goes through. You could easily just say, "Yeah, I get that," and move on. But if you take a breath, look at her sincerely, and say, "You know, it's kind of amazing how much heart you give to people, even when no one sees it." That says a lot about who you are. That kind of compliment doesn't just make her feel good, it touches her soul. Because you're not praising her surface, you're recognizing her effort, her emotional labor, the parts of her most people overlook. And when a woman feels truly seen like that, something shifts inside her. Her guard starts to melt. She begins to trust you, to open up more, because deep down, she feels safe in your presence. Here's something important to understand. Women aren't drawn to words. They're drawn to emotional truth. When you give a compliment that feels emotionally true, meaning it reflects something you actually noticed, something that feels real, her subconscious mind accepts it completely. She doesn't overthink it. She just feels it. That's why, hours later, when she's lying in bed, that moment keeps replaying in her mind. She's not thinking, "What did he say again?" She's thinking, "Why did that feel so different?" It's also why timing matters. Sometimes, the most powerful compliments are the ones that come when she's not expecting them. For instance, maybe she's not all dressed up. Maybe she's just being herself, relaxed, no makeup, hair tied back. And you look at her and say, "You have this calm beauty about you right now. I don't know what it is, but it's peaceful." You've just broken through her expectation that beauty has to be performed. That compliment will mean so much more than anything you could say when she's already trying to look her best. Because it's rooted in realness. Psychologically, this works through something called emotional contrast. When your compliment comes at an unexpected moment, it stands out more in her memory because it creates contrast. It disrupts her normal pattern of how people see her. That disruption gets stored more deeply in her emotional memory, which is why she'll keep thinking about it later. And let's not forget, it's not just what you say, but how you say it. When you deliver a compliment slowly, sincerely, with calm confidence, your tone carries emotional weight. Women are extremely sensitive to vocal tone. A soft, grounded tone signals emotional safety and authenticity. It tells her, "You're safe being yourself with me." And that's something every woman quietly craves. So when you're giving these compliments, don't rush them. Let there be silence after you speak. Let her feel the words, the pause, the stillness, the gentle smile. That's what makes it linger. That's what makes it echo in her mind long after the conversation ends. Because in the end, she won't remember the exact words. She'll remember how your presence made her feel softer, calmer, more beautiful without effort. And that's what keeps her thinking about you when the lights go out and her mind starts to wander. Here's where things start to get truly magnetic. When you understand that the right compliment doesn't just make her feel appreciated, it makes her feel desired in a safe way. There's a difference between a compliment that turns her on and one that turns her heart toward you. And when you can do both, when your words make her feel emotionally desired, not objectified, that's when she starts to crave your presence. Let's be real for a second. Most men either overdo it or play it too safe. Some drown her in flattery, hoping she'll respond. Others hold back completely, thinking it'll make them seem mysterious. But real attraction isn't built through control. It's built through connection. And connection happens when you give her words that validate the woman she is beneath the surface. For example, let's say she's teasing you playfully, throwing those little sarcastic jabs women love to test you with. Most men either take offense or try to match her energy. But you? You smile, hold her gaze, and say something like, "I like how your eyes light up when you're being playful like that. It's actually kind of adorable." That compliment doesn't just diffuse the tension, it transforms it. You've turned a playful moment into a spark of emotional intimacy. You've made her feel seen without taking away her confidence. That's the kind of balance women rarely find. And when you give a compliment like that, watch what happens next. Her body language shifts. She might play with her hair, glance down for a second, maybe even blush slightly. Those are all subconscious signs that your words have hit her emotional core. Because when a woman feels safe being both feminine and noticed at the same time, her body expresses it before her mind does. Here's another example. Let's say you're walking together, and she's talking passionately about something she loves, maybe her work, her art, or her dreams. When you look at her and say, "You have this spark in your eyes when you talk about what you love," it's honestly one of the most attractive things about you. You're not complimenting her body, you're complimenting her passion. That hits deeper because it tells her you're paying attention not just to how she looks, but to what drives her. Psychologically, this type of compliment activates what's known as the mirror neuron system. It makes her feel emotionally mirrored, as if you're attuned to her inner world. This creates a bond that feels almost spiritual in nature. Like you're not just listening to her words, you're feeling her essence. And that's something she'll remember. That's something she'll feel when she's alone, replaying your conversation in her mind. And here's the part that most men don't understand. The more emotionally safe a woman feels around you, the more openly feminine she becomes. She laughs more freely, touches her hair more often, leans closer without realizing it. These are subtle cues of trust and desire, all triggered by how you made her feel, not just through your compliments, but through your presence. So when you compliment her, don't just aim for words that sound good. Aim for words that feel good. Compliments that make her feel free, not pressured. Compliments that remind her she's more than enough, just as she is. Because the moment a woman feels that kind of emotional safety with you, she won't just think about your compliment, she'll think about you. And when night falls and her mind drifts before sleep, that's when she'll start to remember every small thing. The tone in your voice, the look in your eyes, the way your words made her heart feel lighter. That's when she'll realize she doesn't just like what you said, she likes how you made her feel about herself. There's a kind of magic in the moment when your words start living in her mind long after you're gone. That's the sign you've reached her emotions, not just her ears. You see, when you give a woman the kind of compliment that lingers, she doesn't replay it because she's obsessed with you. She replays it because it awakens something inside her. It reminds her of the version of herself she likes being when she's around you. And that's the real secret. Women fall for how they feel about themselves in your presence. Imagine she's lying in bed, lights off, scrolling through her phone, trying to fall asleep, but her mind keeps drifting back to that one thing you said. Maybe it was when she was laughing at something silly, and you smiled and told her, "I love how you don't try to be perfect." You just are. She remembers that tone, that calm certainty in your voice, and it stirs something warm in her chest. That's not about ego. That's about emotion. Because in a world where most people notice only her appearance, you noticed her spirit. Here's what's happening in her mind psychologically. Every time she recalls your words, her brain releases small amounts of dopamine, the same chemical that fuels anticipation and attraction. It's the same mechanism that makes people crave the source of their emotional highs. So when she starts thinking about you before bed, it's not random. It's her mind trying to re-experience that feeling of being valued, admired, seen. And this is why the best compliments often come wrapped in subtlety. You don't need grand gestures or over-the-top declarations. In fact, the softer you make it, the deeper it lands. Something as simple as, "You have this calm energy that makes people feel comfortable around you," can leave a stronger mark than any poetic line. Because it's grounded, real, and emotionally intelligent. And that's rare. Women remember rare. Let's be honest, real attraction isn't built in those flashy, Instagram-worthy moments. It's built in the quiet ones, the small, unplanned moments when you're simply being present with her, when your words don't sound rehearsed but felt. That's why sometimes the most powerful compliment isn't even a full sentence. It's the way you say, "You know, there's just something about you." That pause, that tone, it makes her lean in emotionally, wondering what you really mean. That curiosity keeps her mind circling back to you. And it's not about manipulation. It's about emotional awareness. The man who knows how to express genuine admiration in a way that honors her feminine energy, not just her appearance, becomes unforgettable. Because every woman, no matter how strong or independent she seems, still craves that feeling of being understood without having to explain herself. And if your words can give her that, even for a moment, you become the man her mind won't let go of. The truth is, most men never reach that level because they speak to impress, not to connect. But when you learn to speak with emotional precision, when your compliments reflect presence, warmth, and truth, you stop being just another guy. You become the exception, the one whose energy lingers, the one she can't shake off no matter how hard she tries. And as she's lying there in the dark, her thoughts will wander. Not to your looks, not to your status, but to your essence. The calm tone in your voice, the safety in your gaze, the way your words wrapped around her emotions and made her feel soft again. That's when she realizes she's not just thinking about what you said. She's thinking about you. Now here's the thing. When a woman starts thinking about you like that, it's not just attraction anymore. It's emotional imprinting. You've entered a deeper layer of her mind, the one that connects feelings to identity. She doesn't just like you. She likes who she becomes around you. That's what keeps her emotionally tied to your presence, even when you're not there. And the reason your compliments have that power is because you've learned to speak her emotional language. Every woman has it, That unspoken need to feel seen without judgment and admired without expectation. When you compliment her in a way that honors her energy, not just her looks, you feed that hidden desire. You give her something most men never do, the feeling of being emotionally safe and desired at the same time. Let's say you're in conversation and she's sharing a story about something she's passionate about. Maybe it's a dream she's chasing or a fear she's trying to overcome. You listen, really listen, and then you say something like, "I love how your voice changes when you talk about things that matter to you. It's like I can feel your passion." That one line tells her you're not just hearing her words, you're feeling her spirit. And that's what makes her melt emotionally. Psychologically, this taps into what's known as empathic resonance, the sense that someone truly gets you. When a woman feels that kind of resonance, her body releases oxytocin, the same hormone linked to emotional bonding. It makes her relax, trust, and crave more of that connection. And when that feeling is tied to you, she unconsciously seeks your presence to re-experience it. That's why she starts thinking about you at random times, in traffic, at work, before bed, because your words are now emotionally wired to comfort and desire at the same time. And that's why delivery matters so much. It's not about being smooth or poetic. It's about being real. You don't have to sound like a movie character. In fact, the more natural you are, the more impact you have. Say it like it just came to you in the moment. Let your tone be calm, steady, low. Women feel energy more than anything else. When your energy says, "I see you and I mean it," her defenses fall without her even realizing it. The trick is to never overdo it. The most effective compliments are the ones that feel effortless, spontaneous, like you didn't even plan to say them. That unpredictability makes your words more genuine in her eyes. It tells her you're not trying to impress her. You're just expressing truth. And that's rare. That's magnetic. For instance, you could be walking beside her and suddenly say, "I like how you see the world. You notice small things that most people overlook, simple, honest, but powerful, because what you just complimented isn't her body, it's her awareness. You made her feel special for something internal. That's how you anchor your presence deep into her emotions. And when the night comes and she's lying there replaying your words, she's not thinking about that guy who said nice things. She's remembering you, your tone, your calm confidence, the feeling of being completely accepted in your presence. That's when her attraction transforms into emotional attachment. She starts to miss that energy, even if she doesn't fully understand why. That's the real secret of compliments that make her think about you all night. It's not charm, it's connection. It's the way you make her feel emotionally alive without needing anything from her in return. That's what every woman longs for, and that's what very few men ever give. Now here's where it becomes even more powerful, because once your words have emotionally anchored in her, everything you say after that starts to carry extra weight. Even the simplest things suddenly feel meaningful to her. It's not because you've changed your tone or your vocabulary. It's because, in her mind, you've become emotionally significant. You've entered that rare space where she feels safe, feminine, and curious all at once. And that's a combination no woman forgets easily. You might notice her behavior start to shift subtly. She begins to mirror your tone, your rhythm, even your energy. She starts asking more personal questions or finding small excuses to reach out. Maybe she sends you a random text about something funny. Or maybe she recalls something you said days ago. That's not coincidence. That's her emotional mind replaying the comfort and warmth your words created. Women rarely act on logic when they're emotionally drawn. They act on feeling. And that feeling all started with how you made her see herself through your eyes. That's the secret behind unforgettable compliments. They reflect back to her a version of herself she wants to believe in. When you say things like, "You have this strength about you, even when you're quiet," or "You make people feel calmer just by being around," you're affirming something she maybe never heard before, something that touches both her confidence and her insecurity at the same time. That's what makes her heart respond, not just her mind. Psychologically, this kind of emotional validation is addictive. The human brain craves repetition of the feelings that bring comfort and pleasure. So when a woman connects that emotional safety, admiration, and warmth to you, her subconscious begins to replay it. She doesn't even realize she's doing it. She'll think about your tone, your energy, your choice of words, and suddenly you become part of her mental environment. That's why you stay on her mind long after the conversation ends. Here's something subtle but powerful. When you speak from a grounded, confident place, your compliments also shape how she perceives you. A man who can express admiration without expectation communicates emotional maturity. He's not trying to win her. He's simply recognizing her. That kind of energy is rare, and women instinctively trust it. It makes them want to open up more. They'll start sharing deeper things, giving you glimpses into their inner world. Not because they plan to, but because they feel understood. And when you respond to that openness with warmth instead of judgment, it deepens the bond even more. Compliments can be more than words. They can be emotional permission slips. They tell her, "You're allowed to be yourself here." And when a woman feels that around a man, she doesn't just get attached, she feels peace. That peace is what she'll keep chasing, again and again, even when you're not around. So, when you think about the kind of compliments that make her think about you all night, remember, they don't come from manipulation. They come from presence, from genuine observation, from the kind of man who pays attention to her essence, not just her appearance. Because when you can touch her emotions without even touching her, when you can make her feel desired without pressure and seen without effort, that's when you truly become unforgettable. And that's when she's lying there, eyes half closed, thinking not about what you said, but how you made her feel. That quiet smile on her face? That's not random. That's your emotional fingerprint, left on her heart. And here's the truth, most men never fully understand. Once a woman starts associating you with emotional warmth and safety, you don't have to chase her attention anymore, because you already own her focus. You've become the calm voice in her chaos, the comforting presence her mind keeps returning to when the world feels loud. That's the hidden power of the right compliment. It turns into a feeling she seeks, not a sentence she remembers. Now think about it. In today's world, most interactions are shallow. Quick compliments, empty validation, fake charm. So when a man shows emotional depth, when his words carry sincerity and stillness, it feels different. It feels real. Women are starved for that kind of energy. The kind that doesn't try to impress them, but rather understands them. And that's why your presence starts standing out in her mind. Not because you're louder, but because you're more authentic. Maybe she's had a long, stressful day, and out of nowhere she remembers that one moment, the one where you told her something simple like, "You have this calm way of making chaos feel less heavy." She replays it, maybe even smiles to herself. Because those words don't just describe her, they remind her who she is when she's with you. You've become an emotional mirror for her best self. Psychologically, that's called positive emotional imprinting. It's when someone becomes associated with your most comforting or affirming emotions. So, even when she's not consciously thinking of you, she's subconsciously drawn to the feeling you gave her. That's why her heart skips a little when she sees your name pop up. That's why she finds herself smiling at random moments, wondering why her thoughts keep wandering back to you. And here's the subtle truth. It's not about compliments alone. It's about the kind of man who gives them, the man who pays attention, the man who listens without interrupting, the man whose words carry intention, not agenda. That's the kind of man who doesn't just attract women, he moves them. Because women don't fall for looks, status, or charm. They fall for emotional experiences. And when your words create that experience, you stay with her long after you've left the room. That's why when she's lying in the dark, her mind quiet but her emotions alive, she'll replay those little details. The way you looked at her when she wasn't trying to impress you, the softness in your tone when you said something she didn't even realize she needed to hear. It's not fantasy, it's emotional memory. And once that memory sets in, it's nearly impossible for her to shake. Because deep down, every woman wants one thing: to feel like she matters in ways that can't be faked. And when you give her that through your words, when your compliments touch her emotions instead of her ego, you create a bond that logic can't undo. You become a quiet part of her world, the man she thinks about when she's alone, the man who didn't just compliment her, but understood her. So next time you speak to a woman, remember this. Don't compliment her to get a reaction. Compliment her to leave a feeling. Because long after the words fade, that feeling stays. And if your words can make her heart feel seen, safe, and desired, even for a moment, she'll think about you all night. Not because you tried to be unforgettable, but because you were. You know, there's a strange kind of silence that follows a deep connection with a woman. It's that quiet moment after she's laughed, after she's blushed, after she's looked away, but you can still feel her energy wrapped around you. That's when she's thinking, replaying what you said, analyzing it, feeling it. And if you've said the right words, she's not just thinking about you in passing. You've rented space in her mind. That's the power of a genuine compliment. Not the cheesy lines she's heard 1,000 times, but the kind that feels personal, intimate, unexpected. See, most men make the mistake of complimenting what's obvious. They'll say, "You're beautiful," "You look stunning," or "You have nice eyes." But here's the truth. When a woman hears those things, she doesn't necessarily feel seen. She feels acknowledged, yes, but not understood. Every man before you has noticed her beauty. But not every man has noticed her essence, the little details that reveal who she really is beneath that smile. And that's where your power lies. The first compliment that will stay in her mind all night isn't about her looks at all. It's about her presence. When you say something like, "You have this energy that makes the room feel different," it's not just a compliment. It's an observation that cuts deeper than words. You're telling her you felt her, not just saw her. And women remember how a man makes them feel long after they've forgotten what he said. But here's where it gets even more interesting. When you deliver this kind of compliment, don't rush it. Let there be silence after. Look at her the way a man looks when he's genuinely captivated. Because the pause after your words is where her imagination begins to work. That's when she starts to think, what did he mean by that? Did he really notice that about me? Why did that make me feel something? That's the beginning of emotional attraction. Not in grand gestures or perfect timing, but in moments that feel real. You see, women are incredibly intuitive. They can tell when a man is just trying to say the right thing versus when he actually feels what he's saying. When your words carry sincerity, she doesn't just hear them, she internalizes them. And that's when your compliment becomes more than words. It becomes a memory. So when you tell her something like, "I like the way your mind works," or "You notice things most people overlook," it does something powerful. It tells her you're not interested in her because she's attractive. You're drawn to the way she experiences the world. And that's something every woman secretly craves. To be seen beyond her surface. Now, there's a subtle trick here too. Timing. The best compliments aren't given when she's expecting them. Not when she's dressed up for a date, not when she's showing off, but in the quiet, unguarded moments, like when she's laughing mid-conversation, or when she's telling you a story about something that matters to her. When you say, "I love how passionate you get when you talk about things you care about," you're not complimenting her appearance. You're validating her spirit. That's when her eyes soften, her body language shifts, and her heart opens just a little more. And when she goes home that night, lying in bed, replaying your words, that's when she starts to feel that quiet ache, that pull toward you. Not because of lust, but because of connection. That's the difference between making her smile and making her think about you all night.